So I've been playing a lot of Skyrim and Destiny recently, which, well, fun, and I enjoyed that. I need some time off to let the creative juices recharge and formulate some new runs. So I'm looking for a new game to try for a bit, out of the list of games I have access to do some testing and see if I could plan some runs in some new games. Luckily, I stumbled across this fascinating little game that gave off massive 2D Zelda vibes, and I was immediately sold. In my casual playthrough, there were a few ideas that bounced around in my head on what I could do for a challenge run, but one caught my eye immediately, and that's why we're here today. That's right, today we're going to find out if you can beat Tunic with explosives only. Bit of a spoiler warning if you haven't played before. It starts innocuously enough, waking up on this beach with no indication of why or where we are. Luckily, it's pretty confined at first, so following the path leads you right to where you need to go. To get there, we do need to run past some enemies, as I have nothing. Not just no explosives, but rather nothing altogether. So the first goal is gearing up. And for that, we'll need to rest this bonfire thing, we'll grab this key, and open the door. We'll pick up the first page of the game manual, and head into the first area, the East Forest. We'll drop down this ladder, do not rest at this bonfire, and sprint through the forest to this hidden path to the lower forest. As it stands, in a chest here in the lower forest, sits 6 firecracker bombs. Now, the problem with the first area is, there's no way to escape without beating the first boss. Obviously, 6 firecrackers are not going to be enough to finish the job. So, I let the spiders kill me. The first death of the run brings you here, which is somewhere. Not really sure what's going on with all that. But, eventually it does bring you back to your last rested bonfire. So, with 6 firecrackers, I can open up the world a little bit more, and that means I can grab some loot lying around. Unfortunately, it doesn't work exactly as I'd hoped, and that leads to the second death of the run, a little sooner than I'd hoped. Another chest, another death. Our first 6 firecrackers are mostly used to open the world up, quite frankly. I stop off at this hidden door, then another chest, then one final chest, and I finally have enough to stop at the store. Hidden beneath this windmill is this fella, who sells firecrackers 3 for 100. Using these I can clear out some of the mobs, and then head down to this building to loot some more chests. Grabbing this key, I go to open this old house. I mean, that was just sad. Okay, just a little bit more preparation. I grab the shield and begin to farm some cash. However, without noticing, I've hit an important milestone. You see, there's a mechanic I've noticed that I didn't see mentioned on any of the wikis or anything about this game. After throwing 10 of these firecrackers, you get an extra one that respawns whenever you rest or respawn after death. These 10 that are thrown need to be bought or found firecrackers. The respawning ones don't count towards this count. And every 10, you get another one. That's what's going to make this run possible, because I can use these to farm for cash and buy even more firecrackers, meaning more respawning bombs. I'll be back in a quick minute. Okay, I've managed to pick up about 13 firecrackers, giving us a total of 14, which I'm hopeful is enough to deal with the first boss. So let's go find out if that's the case. Speeding back into the East Forest, there's a few last things I want to pick up. First, these firebombs, and then the sword. The sword is off limits for damage, but I figured it was an easier way to knock down all these bushes rather than wasting precious bombs on them. And then finally, I rest at this bonfire, which means we are now dedicated to getting this job done. I finished traveling to the first boss, and it's time to get started. Oh wait, I forgot to pick up the healing potion. 1 second. Okay, now it's time to get started. Meet the guard captain, the very first boss. I have apparently way overestimated this guy's health pool, because 6 firecrackers apparently would have gotten the job done. Well, this lets us just grab the second Estus flask, and then ring the first bell tower. And just like Dark Souls, I'm certain that ringing these 2 bell towers is nothing but a good idea. Speaking of 2 bell towers, it's time to get started on ringing the second one. And by get a start, I mean more grinding. You see, this game manual page tells me that we should try to have some upgrades before facing the next boss. And while attack is functionally useless to us because I don't believe it changes the damage of the fire bombs at all, defense and health would both be very useful things to have. And much like more bombs, upgrades cost souls. I mean money. So after some grinding, I begin to go open up some of the shortcuts around the map to get ready to conquer the small dungeon chain between where we are now and the next boss. With a quick bomb restock, the next stop is beneath the well. Man, this place looks familiar. Oh, wait, wrong footage. Despite not having bongo bongo, or those things, the bottom of the well presents a significant challenge through a unique factor. Half of the floor is water. Water puts out bombs. Stops the explosion entirely. Not great news when dealing with very fast and annoying enemies who explode when killed. It does take a bit of time, but eventually I can make it through the bottom of the well to grab the lantern, which is necessary to make my way through the next mini-dungeon, the Dark Tomb. The lantern makes it possible to see in here, which occasionally feels like a mistake, because these skeleton guys are not fun to look at. The place is simple enough. Activate these 2 skulls to open up a ladder down, sprint through this spike maze, avoid laser beam traps by blowing them up, do that again, and then escape into the light of day, heading to the West Garden. The West Garden is a snaking tangle of half-broken pathways, all leading to the next boss, the Garden Knight. It's a lot of wandering around, blowing up crocodiles, and finding strange items lying around, so much like I'm told living in the south part of the United States is like. It also introduces our next annoying enemy, these fairies, which are these little flying squares of architecture. At this point, we're at 6 respawning firecrackers, which is definitely not enough to take on the Garden Knight. So, I take the chance to fling some coins in a well, grab some quick loot lying around, and head back to do some grinding. Which does involve running through the Dark Tomb. Yay. I'll see you in a few. Alright, a few moments later, and we're up to 36 firecrackers. Should easily be enough, right? Let's go find out. Well, they can't all be first try, I guess. Luckily I lost none of the firecrackers, so let's just try this again. Not a bad run, but my health is definitely the limiting factor, as I'm definitely not good enough to avoid getting hit all of the time. So a quick break to grind to afford some upgrades, and some more firecrackers, and I'm back to making attempts. After a little while, I developed a technique that essentially boils down to rush the boss and just start chucking. Fire bombs, like the actual fire ones, don't work on this guy by the way, learn that one the fun way. Eventually, though it's much closer than I would have liked, it's over, and with Quaylag, the Garden Knight taken care of, we can ring the second bell tower. Back in the main area, I actually buy those upgrades I grinded for earlier and open this big ass door. A lot of stuff going on in here. Just gonna keep moving. This lets us access even more of the map, which means I can run around and unlock some more shortcuts, and grab some more loot that's just kind of lying around. The next stop requires a bit of scaling through the Spirit Realm, which you might recall from earlier. Looks a little different, but it's not too big fortunately, and really just kind of functions as a travel method between some parts of the map that are inaccessible to the physical Vox body. So, from the main area, it's a quick jaunt to the ruined atoll. The plan here is to run over to the northeastern tower first, as that's where the frogs are. While that may sound like a nonsensical statement at first, the Frog Fortress provides an essential upgrade for the run. First, I grab some loot, then stop and pray by this weird screaming pillar, and then enter this strangely shaped mouth cave, where I can begin working my way through the Frog Fortress. The fortress itself is not too bad. The frogs are a bit stronger than previous enemies have been, but they like to group up, which makes dealing with a lot of them easier most of the time. It's some quick unlockings of shortcuts, a bit of blowing up frogs, and then panic rushing around this final room as the frogs' tendency to swarm suddenly becomes a lot less helpful when I'm on the same floor as them. Second try makes it though, and we have acquired an orb. Unfortunately, this orb is not for pondering, but rather for flinging yourself around everywhere, as it functions as this game's grapple hook, meaning that all of the areas of the map that required the grappling hook are now open to us. I do quickly use it to grab some loot within the Frog Fortress, but then it's back out to the ruined atoll to go activate the other 3 screaming pillars at each corner of the area. Luckily, that was very smooth and there were no issues whatsoever, so we can just head to the middle of the atoll, where this big-ass statue waits. Praying in front of this statue temporarily lifts it into the air, giving us just enough time to run underneath and be transported outside of the Great Library. As I ascend, I should probably tell you why we're here. You see, when we entered that giant golden door earlier, it indicated to us that there were 3 keys needed to unlock the strange thing in the center. The strange thing that was also seeming to surround the weird fox guy who helped us earlier. But the 3 keys have been hidden away in different parts of the world. The green key, which we are looking for now, was originally hidden in the place that would become the Frog Fortress. But it was taken by the librarian of the library, so we're gonna go get back from them. However, this is a boss fight, spoiler, and I do not feel that 12 firecrackers is going to be enough for that. So it's time for another quick grinding session. After that, I snag a quick health upgrade, and I really start to hope that I can do this in 54 firecrackers. Okay, so maybe that didn't go so well, but do you know the definition of insanity? Okay, maybe I just shouldn't deal with this guy first. There's another key we can track down, and we're gonna go head towards that. The next stop is the Eastern Vault, off to the east, and hidden in this castle full of wacky fox people with some kind of candle fetish. To get in, we've got to sneak through a cave, which does bring back the concerns about the floor being made of water. But there is a more pressing concern here in the fact that I'm scared of spiders, and there are a lot of spiders here. Luckily, the spiders are not difficult to deal with, just fast. However, the wacky fox people are difficult to deal with, because they like to set you on fire, which is moderately frustrating. And because they have long-distance wizards who like to teleport once you get within bomb-throwing range, so you waste a bomb and you have to go chase them down again, and they teleport again, and you waste another bomb. I'm calm. Working through the Eastern Vault is easy enough, and eventually I open the golden door to the interior, where we can find the next boss. The Siege Engine. Taking a first go at it, I know I'm going to need more firecrackers to take this guy down, so it's time for some major grinding. Take a look at the inventory beforehand, and I'll be back in a little while. Okay, it's been a little while, and I have majorly stocked up on firebombs, firecrackers, and decoys. Altogether, it costs a little over 14,000 in total, but I'm fairly certain this should last us through most of this part of the game. So, boss time. The Siege Engine falls on the first try with all the upgrades I've acquired, meaning I can go grab the red key, and head right back to the library to see if the librarian is going to cause any more issues. The answer to that question is yes. It takes a few more tries, before I realize the issue I've been having. The librarian is always just floating out of reach of my bombs. And then I realize this is solvable. You see, the magic orb can pull enemies to you, which means the librarian can be pulled from his stupid floaty place to within bomb range. He doesn't last long after I figure that one out, meaning we've got the green key, and there's only one left. Next up is one of the most vibey sections of the game, in my humble opinion. The first stop is the quarry, which will lead us to the next important location, which you can see in the background as I cross this bridge. God, that shit is cool. So, the quarry. Here is where the raider scavenger enemies first appear, and these fuckers are mean. They are relentless in chasing you down, and one of them even stole my shtick. I will not lie, this might be the location of the vast majority of my deaths in this playthrough. Running through most of this place, we can pick up the mask card in the monastery, which allows us to walk near this strange purple stuff without it damaging and lowering my max health. This allows us to head into the lower part of the quarry. But the lower quarry leads to the sealed ziggurat, where this game gets weird. The vibes are immaculate down here. I do a little cheeky cheesin' to open a shortcut early and run straight into this guy. Literally. I bring back a strategy from earlier for these guys that you might remember that I like to term bum rushing, where I sprint and chuck bombs as fast as possible because I'm scared. But after beating him, we can descend the tower and go lower and lower and lower. This place seems to be some type of factory, and it's filled with a strange glowing liquid which hides strange glowing creatures. But I keep descending. There are a few interesting fights, like this double fight with the 2 cube creatures, where glowy spiders also appear. But still, I go deeper. At the very end of the line waits the boss scavenger, who goes down on the second try, as I managed to set myself on fire in the first run. But that means I can grab the final key and return to the golden doors. Each key is slotted into a different spot in this location, with each removing a different segment of this floating contraption. From there we can return to the spirit realm and visit the place we saw on our first death, only to find it empty. So there is one last unused platform in the spirit realm here. So I take it, and find the creature that was inside, waiting. Oh shit. And I'm a ghost now. Huh. Lots of spirits here. And there's a spirit bridge. Interesting. Following the bridge brings me to the swamp, which leads to the cathedral. The swamp is full of ghosts and skeletons, and also water, so I did not want to be here. My solution for this was sprint. This mostly works, with some minor issues, but it takes a moment before I'm into a cathedral. The cathedral is fucky, because it's filled with what appear to be copies of me. Weird zombie-like copies that are all trying to kill me, but still, they're there. Luckily, the cathedral is rather linear. Simply, you just need to get up to the top and activate that box. So we just zoom through here, and what the fuck is that? Okay, moving on. Activate the thing. Leave. And it's gone. Oh, I don't like that at all. I do not like that. Below the cathedral is an arena. Activating each candle in the arena spawns different waves of enemies that have appeared before this point. Like the fox wizards, the skeletons, the frogs, the fairies, and even 2 versions of the garden knight. It's a first try completion, by the way. Beating the arena grants you the champion's laurels, which allow a dash step rather than the roll you've had up to this point. This is important because across the game are sites known as the hero's grave. Praying at the grave brings you to a section of the spirit world, where you can dash over to these floating platforms that hold the upgrade materials that have been found throughout the game. Each one of these grabbed returns the relevant stat to its pre-spirit form level, such as stamina, which you can see here. So the plan is, collect all of the upgrade materials from each of the hero's grave locations, to be returned to a corporeal form. This requires some backtracking. First to the West Garden, which returns the defense stat back to us. Followed by the Eastern Vault, which returns our health bar to its usual state. After that is the East Forest, where the attack stat is returned, mostly uselessly, but still need it. That's followed up by some loot collection and buying some final health upgrades, before returning to the library. Oh, hey dude. No hard feelings? The library's grave is a little unique, in that it's blocked by this fight with 2 sets of armor before I can even access it. Accessing it does return my MP stat, which is mostly functionally useless at this point, but leaves us with a single stat to recover. This requires traveling to the quarry again, through a back route over the top of the mountains, because it is now filled with the strange glowy liquid. The final hero's grave is inside the monastery, where I initially found the scavenger's mask. For some reason, I can't get to it, so maybe I Oh, that's where you went. I am not enthused. I am not enthused. Okay. That's the final grave, our potion stat. Once again, I am a real fox boy thing. Returning over the mountain, there's only one thing left. To defeat the heir, who made us this way in the first place. I take a few minutes to head back through some earlier places to double check for loot that I wasn't able to grab earlier, but then, it's finally time. My first attempt to beat the heir. This guy is rough. He's fast and hits like a truck. I didn't even make it halfway through his health bar. The third attempt makes it much, much farther. When I tell you I cheered when that health bar hit 0, only to see a second phase, yeah, that was crushing. No other attempts that night made it even close to the second phase, and believe me, I tried for a while. So I eventually called it because I just needed a break. I needed a reset and come back in the morning. When I came back in the morning, I needed to grind a bit more as my supplies had diminished a significant amount from the attempts the night before. I worked out a new grinding spot, grabbed a few thousand coins real quick, and stocked back up. Let's see how this goes. So, folks, that's Tunic Explosives Only. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to finding some new games to do some other new interesting runs. Let me know down in the comments if you've got any ideas, or how you felt about this one. All in all, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, have a good one.